So this is going to be roughly 2 foot. That's what I said I thought it was going to be. 24 inches. So that's the cordage that's tied in a loop. Now let's look at the spindle. So the spindle itself, we're looking at about 7 3/4, probably 8.5 to 9 inches in length for this thickness of a spindle. So that's about 1/2 inch in diameter. So like if we were to cut across the spindle right in the middle, we're looking at right at 1/2 inch. That would be ideal on the thickness. Now obviously you could use a bow drill spindle that is twice as thick as this, so you could leave the thicker portion to add strength, so you could pull harder and then shave this down to a 1/2 inch in diameter across. So and do the same thing, taper it up here at the top. You notice that is getting kind of torn up, and you want that to be nice and smooth, almost polished off like this, but not burned up. So I would want to shave that off before I started and get it nice and smooth. That's just from, the only reason it looks that way is because I had to bang it out of the actual counterweight, the weight I was using to spin it. So now this is probably the most important piece of information, is for this spindle and this 2 foot long cord, mainly for the spindle, what's the weight of the weight that I'm using? So let me turn that on. And what is, let me tar that out. Okay. Let's see what the weight is. So we're looking at almost 1.5 pounds would be ideal. So 1.4 pounds is what we're looking for. So I think anywhere between 1.5 pounds, 1.33 pounds, somewhere right around in there would be ideal, because this seems to spin it just right. It's not too much weight, and it is enough so that it wraps the cordage up. Any less than this, you might have trouble with the cordage wrapping back around the spindle. You need that weight to continue to spin to tie that cordage back around the spindle. And obviously you want a socket. This is Bodark or Osage Orange. It's a really hard wood. It has a latex. I've had this since the 7th grade. And what I did was I used this because it's been polished off over time, and the wood is not gonna be able to bore into it. So it's almost as hard as a rock because it's been petrified. Once that sap hardens on Osage Orange, it almost petrifies the wood. Like if you were to cut this with your chainsaw, sparks would come off. Okay, I want to show this process with a thicker spindle. So what I've done is I've tapered this one down. Now I'm going to do this opposite from what I would normally do. Normally I would thin all of this out and then slide this down until it stops on the thicker portion. But I'm going to go the other way. And the reason I'm doing that is to keep strength in that spindle. I want strength here. So I want it to be smaller here, but keep that strength. Let's look at the size here. I'm going to do this kind of quick. That's about 10 inches long. That's as long as I'd want to go. And we're going to see how this works out. So that feels pretty good there. And then let me wrap the line around. So I have my loop here, my 24-inch loop. I'm going to put a clove hitch in it. So I went from right to left, making a loop again. That loop in my right hand is going to go behind the one on the left. That's going to slide over, and I'm going to cinch this down real good. So I want that to cinch down. There we go. So now I'm going to put another bight in the rope as if I was going to extend that clove hitch out. This time, instead of just bringing this over just like this, I'm going to turn it around one more time. The reason I'm doing that is so when I cinch this down, I want this line to be going in the same direction as this one. So I'm going to cinch that down, cinch both of these down. Now if I was to just add another half hitch in, we would have one line going this way and one line going that way, like we did when we first made that clove hitch. So now I'm going to put my handle in, so I'm going to extend this out, and I'm going to put a lark's head in. So I took my thumb and index finger and I made a loop. I'm going to slide this in. There we go, cinch that down, and now we're going to wrap this up. All right, so now I've got that wrapped up. Now we're going to try to burn this in to our fireboard. I better get one on this one. I'll be surprised if I don't. I may have already burned through that thing. Oh yeah. Big, chunky coal. Let that burn a little bit. Cool. So what I did there is because these were burning out the front, so they were jumping out the front because of the angle. They were kind of popping up here and popping out, popping sideways and popping out. I faced it away from me so that a lot of the pull, every time I pulled, wouldn't be pulling it towards that notch that was allowing it to jump out. That's a big, chunky coal. So we could build that up.